Hello, guys. This is Jack and Wiley, and then we are on the Hypothetical podcast. Reth's coming in right now, so you can go ahead and come over here, Reth. Our usual other person will be Chandler, but he skipped school a lot, so
He's a deadbeat.
today it will be us, and we're just gonna start off this podcast with a couple things about football. Talk about the big news everybody in Alabama heard about, Nick Saban, and then we're gonna be doing hypothetical things like over unders, what would you do with this? What would you do with that kind of stuff. So let's start it out with football, which Wiley can't really talk much about this. He probably knows Saban's gone, but
Yeah, I'll
not much
comment.
more.
I'll make a few comments on Saban.
So a big day in Alabama, and this is nationwide. I feel like not just in the state of Alabama. Nick Saban being gone is like giving a lot of teams hope, but a lot of questions asked about who's going to be the next coach. I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, Reth, me and you can both kind of talk about who do we think the next candidates are going to be, stuff like that. Just if you don't know Nick Saban's legacy, and I'm not a Bama fan, but it's sad to see him go. Same thing Reth said. Seven national titles, six with Bama, 11 SEC championships. I mean, he showed a pure dominance, you've never seen before. But so, Reth, how do you feel about this being an Auburn fan? Bama being his arch rival. How does this make you feel?
I wanted to walk in like Stephen A. Smith with a cigar. But
Yeah.
as with all due respect, like I said earlier before this podcast, even though I'm a diehard Auburn fan from the day I was born to the day I die, you have to give this man his respect.
He's the GOAT.
And I mean, I may hate him whenever he plays us, and I hate the fact that he's beat us as many times as he has, but he is the GOAT college football coach.
And you can't really blame him. I mean, if I could retire and just live filthy rich for the rest of my life, I
True.
would too.
He just bought a mansion in Florida,
$17.5 million mansion in Florida
and
on
then
the beach.
also the brand new Ferrari.
Yeah.
yeah, he's
So,
set.
That man has definitely engraved his name in the stone as the GOAT.
I agree. So, my opinion, I think that Alabama can be good again one day, but I don't know if they'll ever get back to that, dominance. I think this is going to make it a more even playing field. Last night, me and Reth talking about this earlier, Alabama already lost their top recruit in the class, Ryan Williams. He was a five-star receiver that went to Saraland. We're going to be losing a lot of recruits because a lot of people commit to Bama for the history, for the winning, to be under Nick Saban because he's known for having the most NFL-ready players come out of his college.
Absolutely.
And so with Nick Saban being gone, and Alabama is not an NIL school. They're just not. They're going to pay you some. You're not going to see them giving all these big contracts like A&M and Texas and Tennessee, stuff like that. So I mean, I feel like Bama is going to have a couple down years, but what do you think, Reth? What is your opinion?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the saying Bama's not an NIL school. People come to Bama for two reasons. Like you said, Nick Saban is Nick Saban. He produces top quality players. We've seen that the numbers are indisputable for that. And number two, it's for the legacy.
More first-round draft picks than losses.
Yes.
29.
When we had the pleasure of getting to go to Alabama on our broadcasting field trip.
Yeah.
And when you get to see the amount of accolades, the number of players that are first round, the number of players that have made the draft period, the number of Pro Bowl players, the number of All-Americans, the number of – it seemed like every person that I saw from Bama had some award beside them.
Yeah, exactly.
And not even that, they show you – the SEC championships, the 12 with Saban, the 7 national championships with Saban, the one with Bear Bryant. Alabama's just always been like the legacy team.
Yeah.
Like there can be, going into a season, a team that's possibly better. We'll say last year Georgia.
Yeah.
Like people were saying, okay, coming into this season, Georgia's the team to beat. But that still never strayed people away from wanting to go to Bama.
And Bama, beat Georgia last year.
And they did.
The past 2 years, they've beat them in the SEC championship.
And that is just it's legacy and its history with Alabama. And I think it's huge. I do think Bama will enter a little bit of a slump. I don't think it's going to go from them being like 11-1 to like 6-6 or anything like that.
I think they'll be more of a 9-3, 8-4 team.
They'll definitely still be winning, absolutely, but it's not going to be the dominance we've seen within the last 10 years.
Yeah, I agree.
And, I mean, that's just because of the legacy of Saban. And like you said with the recruit of Ryan Williams, I mean, he is from Saraland. That's in spitting distance of Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you see that all the time, Alabama players. We produce good high school players here in the state. And, almost 9 times out of 10, if they can ball and they're from Alabama, they go to Alabama or Auburn. And my thing is, Ryan Williams being the number 1 player of 2025, watching him from having Alabama in his backyard to decommit, that says a lot. I mean, a lot of players – we'll just say like Michigan, from players from like Texas, players from places like that. They go out on a limb moving to Alabama and trusting in Saban. And my thing is, now that Saban's gone, that kind of creates like a little more risk factor. Because a lot of people, people might say, oh, a redshirt year doesn't really count, or you see people that transfer all the time that are great. But it's really important that you go to a good school those establishing years of like being whether it be a redshirt freshman or like a sophomore. That is super important because that is where it builds you up as not only your character, but where you're going to stand out as an athlete.
I agree.
You can look at, Jaden Daniels. People can say, or even Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a great example of this. When he left Ohio State, because he didn't play to go to LSU, you can say, yeah, LSU made him who he is. Yeah, not entirely. Ohio State prepped that man to be as good as he was.
Well, also, you got to look at it this way, though, like about the Joe Burrow thing. LSU's first year he was there. They went 9-3, made a bowl game. That second year, you got to look at all the weapons they had. They had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss's son at tight end. I mean, they had the guys. You also got to look at I think the main reason they had that prominence and dominance that year is because look at their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. He's not so much an NFL mastermind because he's the Patriots OC, and you see how their offense has been. But a college mastermind, I mean, Joe Brady is where it's at. I mean, so depending on what side of the ball you play, that plays another big, thing about it. So,
But I definitely think people are maybe not completely switching up, but they'll have second thoughts now about going to Bama.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Because, I mean, say whatever you want to or not, Saban was the reason people went to Bama. If Saban up and decided to go to A&M for whatever
Everybody's
reason,
going to A&M.
people would go to A&M.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't go just to wear the crimson. They go because of Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, and I might be completely wrong here, I definitely think Saban will still have ties to Bama.
I do too.
Like, I think he's not just going to be like, okay, I'm gone, see ya. I think he's still going to be around. I think he'll still be helping.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, he finally decided to call it quits. And you can't dog the man out for calling it quits.
I mean, he coached for 17 years at Bama.
He coached LSU. He coached Bama. He coached NFL with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I mean, the man has had a lengthy career coaching and
he's
a successful one doing it.
And he's 72 years old, too. Eventually, you got to think about, it's time for me to, sit down, calm down. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Spend time, become a family man, spend some time with your family. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely still respect the man for everything he does. And although I would have liked, unfortunately, as much as I hated, I would have loved to see him go out with a natty.
Yeah, I would
which
too.
they didn't. But, I mean, like I said, he's done enough to where he deserves his retirement. And he
Yeah.
definitely didn't leave Bama high and dry.
I agree. So, the next topic we're going to talk about with him, the last topic, and then we're going to move on to some other, more
Wiley-centered stuff.
Wiley-centered stuff and hypothetical-centered stuff. Who do you think, I'll give my list first. There's, 5 guys they've talked about taking this role. I'm going to give you my 5 coaching candidates. You can give me yours. I think the number one guy right now, considering Dan Lanning said on Twitter earlier today he is not leaving Oregon.
Yep.
I think your number one guy's got to be Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, Alabama rich guy. He was OC there for many years before he took his first head coaching job. I think if there's anybody to fill the shoes somewhat of Saban, and that's impossible. Anybody, I think it's him because he's a gutsy coach. He's gonna come out there. He's gonna be cocky, but he's also gonna know his team is the better team on the field 95% of the time.
That and he learned under Saban.
Exactly.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about him and Saban having that little rivalry, but Saban made Kiffin.
Another guy I think, and I know he's the coach at Texas, but Sarkisian, same thing, was under Saban.
Oh yeah.
I feel like in all honesty, he's almost as good of a candidate for the job as Kiffin. But, the only thing that Sarkisian don't have that Kiffin has, he doesn't have that swag. He doesn't have that confidence on the field. And he's never – he coached Texas to a good year. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't think he's a good enough coach overall. He's a great offensive mastermind. Alabama had one of the best offenses in the country when they were under him. But as a head coach, he doesn't have the leadership and stuff to, really step into that role, I feel like. My third guy, he's a sleeper, I feel like. But Mike Norvell from Florida State just led them to a 13-0 year. If he can do that, and I'm not saying Florida State's, not a great team, but imagine if he can lead that team to 13-0 year, what he could do with a team with Alabama caliber players.
Oh yeah.
And then I hope this one's not the hire, but I've heard a lot of speculation. Butch Jones, that's been a big one. I saw he was in Tuscaloosa yesterday. And if they hire him, they can kiss it goodbye. And then I've also heard a lot about Notre Dame's coach. I think Marcus Freeman's his name or something like that. Heard some stuff about him too, teaming back up with Tommy Rees. You know, there's 5 good candidates there. I feel like but
I've heard a little. And I don't know how true this is. I've heard Dabo Sweeney is possibly in the mix.
I've heard a lot about him, but the thing is I think he has shown he is not good with NIL. You see Clemson before NIL, just as good as Bama, had a great dynasty.
Oh, yeah. That
NIL,
18, those like 17, 18, 19 year where they were just back and forth.
And it's not like they don't get talent still, but he's not adjusting well. And I just don't feel like that's the best candidate for Bama. Now, you asked me 3 years ago, Dabo's my pick for Bama. But now, no, he's not. I've also, just one more thing and then I'm done talking. I also saw a thing, this makes me mad if it does happen. James Franklin's in this conversation to come coach at Bama. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Penn State fan, and James Franklin is our coach. And so if he leaves, it's going to be a rough year, I ain't going to lie. But anyways.
I would like to add, from the perspective of someone who doesn't really follow a lot of football, whoever they do contract to replace Saban, I kind of hope that they're a class act like Saban was.
I am too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I want them to act professionally like Saban always did.
Yeah. And that's one thing, I mean, you can say whatever you want about Saban. He did not stand for cockiness. He didn't stand for, players acting out. I mean, he wasn't a, show up, play football kind of coach, but he kept his players in check.
That's one thing that I don't like about Lane Kiffin. He's going to be cocky on the sidelines. Literally, this year, Bama and Ole Miss said, get your popcorn ready because Ole Miss is finna put on a show, like, just to get beat. Like, that's one thing I do not like.
Yeah. Kiffin, I feel like Kiffin is number one if you, like you said, if he can get his act a little bit, under him. And I think, when that Bama job comes a calling, you shut up whatever you have to. I mean, because let's be for real. Anybody who's replacing Saban, they're going to be making millions. Yeah. Not to be saying Kiffin's paycheck isn't fat already, which it definitely is.
I think he makes almost as much as Saban did already.
But when you get brought in to lead an organization like Alabama, you have to kind of get underneath yourself. Like, his whole act is acting cocky, gassing his players up, telling his players to do this, celebrate, stuff like that. And, that's fine. That's great when you're at Ole Miss. Not to call Ole Miss terrible. I mean, they're better than Auburn. But when Alabama comes a calling, he knows what he has to do to fill Nick Saban's shoes, which is an impossible task to begin with. But people said the same thing about Bear Bryant, was that Bear Bryant's shoes would never be filled.
And Saban did more than fill those.
And then Saban filled them and some.
Yeah.
And I think that if the job comes for Kiffin and it falls in his lap, he's going to shut up and suit up.
Well, like, you got to also think about it this way for Kiffin. He just lost one of the top running backs in the country to the portal to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's a big piece of the Ole Miss offense that's gone. So all that's keeping him there now is Jackson Dart, and I feel like Milroe, under the right leadership, is better than Jackson Dart, So, I personally think it's Kiffin's job to lose, for real. Yeah. I think it's his job if he wants it.
Absolutely. Well, Wiley, the ball's in your court.
What you want to talk about, man?
Topic? Let's talk about what was the over-under question with the Stanleys?
Okay, so this is it's a hypothetical podcast. We had to start that out with a little bit of sports because Nick Saban being gone is a big deal to us Alabamians.
Breaking news.
It's a big deal to everybody. I mean,
yeah, for real, but especially in this state. And so, first, hypotheticals are over/under. What would you do with $1 million? Things like that, just for the, if we have viewers that don't technically know what that is. Our first question today: over/under 100 Stanleys in the school in total. Stanley Cups.
100.
I don't know. I think definitely over. If you think about it, at least probably over half. The girls in this school carry a Stanley.
Here's the way I look at it. You go into a classroom, you're gonna see about 5 or 6.
You will.
And there is over 25 classrooms in the school.
Oh yeah.
Do your math. That's like 100.
That, and if you just break down the student count, like if we're taking 9 through 12, there is, we'll just get to an even 100 a grade because like 10th grade they have like 90 something. Or 10th grade has like 110 or 20, and then 11th grade has like 90 or something. So we'll just call it an even 100
and then
for
you say
simplicity.
Roughly half of them are girls.
Roughly, and in some classes it's a little bit more than half.
There's more women than men in the world anyway.
That is true. Yeah. So if we take the even 400 and we 50-50 split it, that's 200 girls in this high school alone. And I know it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Now you have to think, how many of those out of that 200 do half of them own a Stanley? I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah. They do, yeah.
I think if you were to go down a hallway and be like, "Do you have a Stanley?" If one says no, the one to the right of them has to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, and this is a great over under, and if it's not 100, it's close.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
very close. So I have to go with the over.
Yeah, and I've got to wonder about the Stanleys too. How did that get to be a big thing? Because Stanley's
think
been
just a
around
trend.
forever.
Just a
Okay,
trend.
I think
Yeah.
that like what they did is cups have been trending in a direction for a while. Like Yeti cups were big for a while.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they were huge.
And all that. And so like it's people thinking, well, how can we make a cuter version of the Yeti like for girls?
Yeah.
Make it a different color. Make it. And I think that
The
girl-
handle.
Yeah, the
handle.
girls just started saying that. They're like, I'm gonna carry around this garbage can and I'm gonna make it look good while I do it.
5-gallon drum.
Yeah,
And that's
I
what
mean-
when a company understands their target audience, they can
Yeah.
make a lot of money. And
Exactly.
Stanley,
The prices on Stanley.
unfortunately, I've had to
over the
funnel
past
money
year.
into it.
I've
I
had to.
myself don't own a Stanley,
My
but
girlfriend
I've had to
does,
buy
yeah.
two.
Well,
My
I've funneled
girlfriend
money
owns
into
one,
this.
and I had to buy her another one.
Yeah.
So
I have
I
to
mean,
say they.
there's $60 a cup. I mean, that
I
cup.
mean,
better,
this is 60
I mean,
bucks.
my water better change to gold's all I gotta
I
say.
know, and they've gone up too because I
Yeah.
own like the original Stanley, like
Yeah.
a Stanley thermos,
Yeah.
and I bought that for about $20
Uh-huh.
a couple years ago.
Exactly.
yeah,
And I bought one for my girlfriend this Christmas, and it was close to like $40.
Yeah.
45 right in there.
Yeah. So
So I mean,
Reth, how about you do the next over under? We'll all take turns.
all right, here we
or,
go.
Or you can do hypothetical. Like stuff
Yeah,
like that.
All right, so I'm thinking I might go an over under because that one's pretty good. We'll do another. You want to do another school over under or just like a?
still a school
Let me
one.
think. We'll do a school over under.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Noah's trying to tell us something. Let's see. Here we go. Over under. Half the people in this school can point to the country France.
Under.
Oh, under
Under.
for sure.
You think half the people in this school, if given a map, could not point to the country France?
Under.
Caden McIntyre thought the capital of the United States was Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah, I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under.
I'm full on taking the under.
Yeah, I think you have to go under there. I mean, that's something that I know that all of us in this room could do, but there are some people at this school that really question me.
Yeah.
Samina thinks Europe's a country. So
Yeah. All right, Wiley, it's your turn. You try and do the next hypothetical.
Let's see here. You think they're over or under the amount of people in this school? You think there's over or under 100 people in this school that could parallel park a car?
Under.
under, no
That's a
doubt, no
100%
doubt
under.
under, no doubt under.
Like, can y'all parallel park a car?
I can.
I can.
Okay.
I'm not very great at it.
I'm not
but I can do
amazing,
it.
but I can get it in the lines without
Yeah.
hitting a car.
But to be fair, like old people complain about that, but it really isn't popular nowadays.
Yeah, and there's no reason to really do it half the time. For
No,
real.
it's not.
Yeah, for real. Unless you're like downtown, which 9 times out of 10 they have the parking blocks anyways. So.
They do. Or you just park in a random parking lot that you're not supposed to park in,
Yeah.
like Subway.
Yeah. So, for my next one, this is outside of school.
All right.
All right.
Over or under, you wear 48 shirts a month. Over. or
48 different shirts? Like
Like-
48 like
under? Just shirts.
ooh,
Over because I usually wear a different shirt to bed. And
That
if
is
there's 30
true.
days in a month,
Yeah.
My thing,
I'm probably
yeah. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I'll wear my shirt and then I'll go home and shower and just like walk around in pajama pants with no shirt.
Yeah.
that's true.
But then also you got to think sports.
Sports.
You got to
Yeah.
think sports.
I mean, because I'm wearing one right now. I'll change into something
At
at
track.
track. Go home. I'll go to the gym. I'll be in the same thing. Come home, shower. That's 3 shirts in one day.
Yeah.
know?
And that's a good 90 a month.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I have to wear 90 a month. I'd say I'm in the 70 range. I'll probably
Yeah.
70.
I mean, just because of sports alone, yeah. Because I mean, you can't.
So
be,
I'm gonna take an over on
Yeah.
this one.
I'll say if you ask me in like heart of football season, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then again, I will say, like, sometimes I won't change shirts in the morning. Like the shirt I put on after my shower and I went to bed in, I'll
Yeah.
just keep it on
Yeah.
for the day. So I don't know. It'd be close, but I think I'm definitely over 30.
Yeah, I think you go over.
All right, Reth.
All right. Do you think you take? We'll go with more like a personal one again, like that one. Do you think you take over or under 50 showers a month?
Under.
I'm probably right at 50, honestly.
It just
so?
depends on the day because some days I'll be taking 2, some days I take 1.
And then hear me out. This might seem gross to y'all, but on a day that I wake up and I'm purely at home and do nothing, like no workout, don't leave the house, I don't shower that night.
See, I have to shower every day.
I have to shower at least once
And
a day.
then, that next morning when I wake up, I will. But, like, if I wake up and it's like a Saturday, and I know I'm not going out and I'm just staying at home and I'm not working out or nothing, if I'm just sitting in the house all day lounging around.
Sorry.
If I'm just sitting in the house lounging around, I don't really, I don't. But then the next day I wake up and I do. But in a day when I don't do anything, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But the one day is the max for that. You can't go more than one doing it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you will get musty.
Yeah. So, I think I'm honestly, let me think.
Because, I can tell you, in a sports
Actually,
season,
I'm changing. I'm going the over. I think I'll take over 50. Because I work.
Yeah.
Because, I usually hang out with my girlfriend after work. So I take a shower before work and after work. And on a good week, I probably work 3 or 4 days. That's already 8 right there in a week, not counting the other 3, so.
And then mine is, I showered this morning when I got up. Depending upon how much I sweat in this workout that we're about to have, I will go home and take another one.
Just a opinion right here. Mason King takes 4,700 showers a month.
Oh, no doubt. Doubt. And it's still
Stinky King.
All right, you got the over-under on that.
All right, I'm going to do another personal one. Do you think you take – okay, how about this? Do you think that you are in bed for over or under, let's say, 50 hours in a month?
50 hours. Well, assuming you sleep 8 hours a day.
I'm over.
Yeah.
I'm
for
honestly
30
over.
days, that's
I'd say
24.
I'd say I'm over. Well,
You said how many hours?
50. I'm over.
50. Oh, you mean like not sleeping, just like laying in your bed?
no, like sleeping, just the amount of time that you were in your bed
50 hours
over the course of a month. 50.
Well,
I'd say you're over because you're.
Think about it this way: if you sleep 8 hours a day
For
Yeah.
30
for 30
days, that's 240
that's
hours.
240.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is a lot of kids in this school probably don't get that.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
true.
That's true. But even if you bring it down to 5 hours of sleep,
Still 150.
Yeah.
it's still 150.
Yeah.
I'd say you get at least 5 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were to
more
say
reasonable and probably
if you were to say
more close to
150,
100,
if you were to say like
150,
150, then you got a genuine debate there. But I think definitely over 80.
That's true.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. It's about time for us to go. Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Hypothetical podcast. So we'll see you next time. Coming from Jack,
Wiley,
And Reth.
peace.